Welcome to Real Life and Archetypes. My name is Marina. So today I want to talk about a little something, maybe a little bit of venting. So many years ago, I was going through this huge life crisis. Well, many years, not that many years, and I'm still going through it in many ways. But the thing is that I went to do some yoga classes. Okay, so I got into this ecosystem of yoga. And of course, you have to understand when you're in a position of vulnerability, you're just there, you just want to be with people. I had been completely isolated, under control for so many years. And so I wanted to make friends. I was completely lost, an absolute fool and ignorant. And I needed, comfort, and I needed to take care of myself. So I went into that world. And the thing is that I ended up leaving for several reasons. First of all, I got into so many, workshops, diets, and all of this. I mean, this is a business, really, that world. There's always something wrong with you. And of course, that is the business, to make sure that you feel that there's always something wrong with you. So you need more supplements and go to this workshop about sugar and whatever. It's never ending. It's really quite a huge machine, money-making machine. That was my experience. And there were also lovely people. I'm not going to contest that. But the ecosystem is a little bit of a grifting machine. So anyway, I went there for a while, and the workshops, the meditations. I mean, I did everything except for extreme stuff that some of my instructors did, like, do frog poison sessions. And I don't do that. This is just, I mean, there's crazy stuff going on. However, from my position, being incredibly vulnerable, going through so much. And then I started, of course, with all the dieting and the extreme not eating, my body broke. I started to get really injured. By the way, everybody's injured all the time in that kind of world. I started to open my eyes and to look at people for who they really were, something that I never did before, hence all of my troubles, many. So the question is that I started to look at all of these figures of authority, right? Claiming to have this knowledge about health and things like that. And I started to look at them and thinking, well, they look like crap. Their hair looks like crap. Their skin looks like ash. They don't look healthy. Their breath stinks. Don't get me started on Ayurveda stuff. But the worst part for me, I remember I was injured. Of course, injured from meditation, by the way. You sit down, meditate, and facing a wall. I did the Japanese stuff. I did everything. So anyway, I'm doing this restorative yoga. And I'm in this room with an instructor who was 60-something, amazing yoga teacher, absolute mess as a person. That's the usual thing. But so she had fake breasts. I don't care about that. Not in principle. Listen, do what you want. I don't want to go into a hospital, and I don't want to see a doctor in my life, but do what makes you happy. But she was older, and she was amazing, giving classes and telling stories about the, whatever, the yoga sutras and things like that. It was a wonderful experience. So we were just three women. She was there, I was there, and there was this young woman, 25 years old, a British girl, blonde, beautiful. And she was there, restorative yoga, because she had had breast implants, and one of them had exploded, something that I thought was an urban myth. Now, she told me herself. So this is not, this was firsthand knowledge, and I was really blown away. I was like, Jesus. So anyway, she was recovering from the second surgery to restore whatever was happening. And I was just like, I can't believe that kind of stuff. So for me, this just, to willingly go to a doctor and get open up, it terrifies me. There's nothing that scares me more than a doctor. and particularly cosmetic doctors. But anyway, so I'm looking at her, and she was, becoming like a life coach. And after a while, not long after that, she had come back from Ibiza in Spain, which is an island. I guess there's a lot of hippie there. And she came back with a certificate to be a spiritual coach. And now she changed her name to Parvati or something Sanskrit. It wasn't Parvati, but something like that. And suddenly she started doing workshops to teach about, first of all, Kundalini, which I didn't know much about that stuff, but I thought this sounds like way too, high level. You need somebody with at least one wrinkle. I like my teachers to be a little old. I need experience. So for me, someone that young to teach spirituality doesn't make sense. I'm sorry, but it doesn't. So anyway, I was just, looking around, looking at her, looking at people. I was thinking, this is a little weird. But not only was she doing that, she actually created workshops that were about loving the self and your body, and especially as a woman. Everything was related to being a woman, accepting yourself, accepting your body, loving your body. And I was just like watching people, and I had to, because I can't shut up. I can't shut up. When I see that stuff, I'm like, please, for the love of God, I cannot resist. I can't shut up, because I'm like, this is like an elephant in the room. Nobody's talking about it. So I started talking to a woman who was my age, and she was actually training to be a yoga instructor. She was really serious about it and good at it, by the way. So I thought, hey, don't you think it's a little rich that this girl who is 25 years old, so in the best shape she's ever going to be body-wise, she hasn't overcome the most basic spiritual, obstacle, which is accept your own body. She's got fake boobs, but she's teaching you how to love yourself when she didn't love herself. And then teaching about Kundalini, which to me, you need like somebody really old. I don't know why. I don't know if it's true. I'm very ignorant because I left after that. But to me, the idea of Kundalini was something that you needed, somebody old who really knew what to do with that kind of stuff. I don't care about that anymore. But anyway, so the response I got from that woman was, yeah, but she's an old soul. Don't get me started with that, the old soul. And I'm like, the old soul, listen, I'm open-minded and I'm woo-woo, but I'm also very rational on the other hand, okay? So I have both. And the explanation that she's an old soul, therefore she has a lot to teach us, that's not the way that I understand spirituality. And then she said, that woman said, as a justification for this very young person with fake boobs teaching us about accepting our bodies, she drank a lot when she was a teenager. I mean, who hasn't done that? But that's it. Old soul, and she drank a lot. And I was like, I don't understand that. I mean, I need legitimacy. I need, wrinkles. I need somebody who's really messed up, who has thought a lot, investigated, explored. I don't know. I need some real shit here. I don't want that blondie with a perfect body who did not accept it and needed to blow it up and then lecturing me about how to love myself. It doesn't make sense to me. So that for me was like a pivotal moment. And I thought, this is just so stupid. I really need to take care of my mind. I just can't be with that incoherence. I was getting really tired also about the whole business. I mean, there was just one workshop after another. There was always something wrong that you learned about. And this is something new. And now do this and do that. That's why I'm really saturated with that kind of stuff. But the issue for me is the following. When I was, at that moment, first of all, I had my own experiences that were, I had, I had astral projections. I had a lot of things going on, which was cuckoo enough. And by the way, in that world, everybody wants to have those experiences. And I was like, you don't. You don't, because it destroys you completely. You think you're cuckoo. It destroys the way that you live. It disconnects you from everybody until you start to make sense of things. So anyway, I went from, having big dreams to lucid dreams and then astral projections. I had to stop there. I had to stop them. Then I went to, after I stopped them, I went to the Monroe Institute, because that's what I was recommended. And I thought I would try. I had a good experience. Whatever you may think about it, for me, it was a good experience. So I have that cuckoo side, but there's something to me that really bothers me about that world of the woo-woo, and what I do has that component too. And that's why I do it in a different way. I've been there. I've been that person who was just, like a ragged doll, just carried around. Go to this, do that, fix that. Go to this reflexology, acupuncture, and other weird stuff about energy and things like that. And they tell you such ridiculous things, such ridiculous things. But this to me is an exploitation of vulnerability. Not everybody does it intentionally. I accept that, because it's just, they're all in the world, in this world, and this is how they're going to live. This is what they believe. But sometimes it just goes way too far. And the problem is, you have to be very careful. When you're vulnerable, you need to pay attention to the kind of people that are going to have such an influence on your mind. And especially, are they uplifting you to move forward? Or are they always, keeping you in, pulling you back in, as, The Godfather 3, just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in. And it's an endless cycle of, there's something wrong with you, and you need to do more and more and more, but you're never ready and never strong enough to be back in the world and to build. It's just, if you build something, it's a connection with people who are going to be permanently and forever in a state of weakness and of woo-woo, always going very far with the woo-woo. And admittedly, I have been very far in the woo-woo too, but I have this like skepticism even about my own experiences. They're just for me, whatever it is. But I really hate people who take advantage of vulnerable people. It really makes me sick. It's something that bothers me. And I think, good intentions is not enough. You need to have responsibility. You need to understand that when you present yourself as helping others, particularly, you need to hold yourself to higher standards than just, let's just do this, or even, like the frog poison thing, which don't get me started. I'm not into substances, so I'm never going to fall for that crap. And the other stuff, it's just so much money, and I didn't have the money for that either anyway. But I hate that. I really hate that. And this is a bit of a rant, for whatever it's worth. It was not long after that I stumbled upon astrology, although I had looked at it before, but just, sort of playing around, not really seriously. And then that's when I started to see something about the birth charts. So I started to study really a lot of things, not just astrology material, but all kinds of stuff. And the problem was that, to me, there was a level of confusion that I had a problem with. And then I had an actual session with a professional astrologer who is quite renowned. I have a few of his books. Very interesting. I'm open-minded. But there's something that I was taught years ago when I had my first astral projection. There was this man, maybe some of you know him, Thomas Campbell. Tom Campbell, astrophysicist, worked for NASA 30 years. He helped Bob Monroe create the Monroe Institute. And he is, in both worlds. Like, he's a super astrophysicist, a huge mind, but he's been exploring the larger consciousness system, going astral for decades. He does it at will. For me, it was spontaneous. I didn't control them. But just a few days after my experience, he came to give a workshop, and somebody told me, and it was like the building right next to mine. So, I mean, I really had to go. And it was very interesting. The one thing that really marked me, first of all, he said, don't look at other people's experiences because they're going to influence the experiences that you have up there, whatever you want to call it, and have open-minded skepticism. And this is in my head, ingrained in my head. And what also helped me, just to digress a little bit, was that he sort of spoke of certain phases that you go through when you have those experiences. And I did go through those phases. One of them is that you start to think that you're completely a lunatic and that you've lost your mind. If you have a little bit of critical thinking, I guess. But anyway, what happened is that at some point I thought I was going to do, the conventional, if you can call it, interpretation of charts related to astrology. And all of those things were happening at the same time. And I had that session, which cost me a lot of money, with that super famous astrologer. And let's just say I was underwhelmed. But there was also some ethical stuff that I had a huge problem with. And that's where I changed course. And I started to go into something that I was perceiving. This is what I do now. With the archetypes, it's completely different from astrology. I don't understand astrology very well. It's very confusing to me. But my archetypes are related to how you're going to read a birth chart. So it is woo-woo. But I pride myself in trying to apply some kind of rigor. And the most important thing is that the problem that I have with all of these helpers and healers and astrologers and whatever is that if you're not careful, you're going to be dragged around in directions that have nothing to do with what you're really meant to do. And you lose your connection to your own strength and thinking. You don't develop your strength. You develop integration into an ecosystem that is going to shape you instead of you taking charge of who you're supposed to become. That's the hero archetype, by the way. So just a cautionary tale. Aside from the rant, I'm not very comfortable saying some things, but I've said them. And for me, it's important. I hate people who exploit vulnerable people. I think that's cowardice. Now, some people don't realize that they do that. I accept that. I admit that. I see that. But a lot of them do. They know what they're doing, so be careful. And don't let anybody tell you when they read your chart that you are supposed to do this because the chart is saying like you have to get a divorce or nobody can tell you that. The chart doesn't tell you that. The chart is telling you energies that you have, where they are. Where are you going to encounter authority, relationship dynamics? What kind of problems do relationship dynamics bring? Do you want to understand that? Where is it going to show up in your life? Does it have some kind of background? Then you can understand. And how you want to bring that into your own life is your decision and creative process. Nobody can make those decisions for you. So take care of yourself. Nobody can tell you. Nobody knows if you're going to win the elections. I've had that question. Meet your super partner next week. I've had that question. If you're going to be rich, I've had that question. Nobody can tell you that. Nobody. And for the love of God, do not isolate from family, break up a marriage, and things like that because somebody is telling you that this is what is in your chart. Don't do that. End of rant. I hope you hear me. Thank you.